Okay, everybody. Great overqualified guest. Actually, Raul Marquez, U.S. Olympian, world champion, distinguished bilingual broadcaster. And Raul, you also were at the fights last night. You covered the fights. You called the fights. Thank you
Yes.
for being on the show.
Oh man, happy to be on. It's been a long day of traveling from New York, but uh, I did say that I was going to be on with you, and I'm excited to be on and talk about this. Actually, it was a great card. It was a great night of boxing, man. For me, what a great night. You know, Time to start the New Year's with a great card like that. All the fights were very exciting, and especially the main event, man. Especially, I mean, who could say right now fight of the year? There was a knockout on the card too that could be the knockout of the year too. It was one round, but both guys were going back and forth. The Olympian, El Perrito against El Chucky. I don't know if you saw that fight, but in the main event, we're here to talk about Subriel Matias and Dalton Smith. Dalton Smith, he shocked the world, bro. He shocked me, and I think he shocked a lot of us.
So, what did you see when you were calling this fight at ringside?
Well, you know, from the beginning, I know Dalton Smith's plan was to box and be technical and move around and not fight Matias's fight. And he started off well. He did start it off. He started boxing him. That first round was a lot of moving, and he was landing the overhand rights and the jabs and giving him movement. The second round was a little bit of back and forth action too, and it seems like Matias came out a little bit stronger. Matias is a guy that gets better as the fight goes on. He's like the energizing bunny. He kind of likes to give you rounds. I look at it that way. He kind of like just walks you down and tries to show you that look, I could take your best shots and kind of intimidate you and puts that mental pressure on you. And that's what he did in the second round. But I still gave that round to Dalton Smith. I think he got the best of him. And then the third round, Matias was coming full blast, man. He was busier and he was landing some vicious shots. The way he fights, I seen Matias fight live like 3 or 4 times, and I know the kind of damage that he's done to fighters. Most recently, when he fought Goyas um, in Puerto Rico. I mean, he was doing some. I mean, when you see the way he punishes guys, uh, when you're ringside, it's brutal, man. It's scary. I mean, you gotta remember he did kill that Armenian or no Russian fighter, right? So
Dabashev.
yeah, he does damage, man. It's scary. It's scary. It's frightening. Uh, Pressure that he puts is constant pressure. So I feel like in the third round he was getting started. So that was a round that he definitely won. And then the fourth round it was kind of back and forth action, but he was I still seen him more see saw him do more damage, and that's when Dalton kind of was bleeding, from the nose and from the a cut that he had. At the time of the when the stoppage happened, I had the fight pretty even. I had it like 2-2, but I felt like Subriel Matias was gaining more momentum. He was doing what he does, just break down his opponents. And then all of a sudden, man, Dalton Smith created that space. It was good distance. And of course, Matias, he takes shots. I mean, he has no defense. Like honestly, like they really got to work on his defense. He just takes shots. That's his style. But Dalton, created that distance, and you could see where he, puts the jab out there, throws a right hand, puts the jab out there, kind of measures, him, throws another right hand that kind of rocked him. I believe it was like 3 or 4 consecutive right hands. Some of them were straight, some of them were over the top. But the last one that was over the top, that's what put Matias down, and he was out, man. He was out. Got back up. I think it was a good decision that the referee decided not to let him go. Other people say, "Oh, he's a champion. He should have let him go." Yeah, I mean, it depends on the referee. If it would have been the late Steve Smoger, remember Steve Smoger? He would have let
Yeah.
him go. He would have let him go. But I think the referee did a good job of stopping it at that point because he was really hurt. And I think if Dalton Smith would have caught him again with another big right hand over the top, he might have really. hurt him really bad. So it was a big win, man. It surprised me because, you know, even Dalton said at the post fight interview that the plan was to box again and be technical, but he said he took Matias's best shots. So when he took his best shots, he said, "You know what? I'm just gonna go beat him at his own game." That's not true, bro. He got forced to fight that kind of fight. That's what I think happened. He got forced to fight the fight because that's what Matias does. Even Eddie Hearn said that. Eddie Hearn was, he was every round, he was scared. He was worried every round because he knows what Matias could do. And Eddie Hearn said, he got forced into fighting Matias's fight, and he beat him in his own game, and that's exactly what happened. So I give him that. My respects. It was a hell of a win. It shocked me. It shocked me and Corey. We didn't expect that. You know, not only did he knock this guy out, something that nobody had ever done. Nobody had ever done. We were shocked, and the way he did it, he beat Matias and Matias's own game. That was not the plan. The plan was to box and move. Yeah.
Here's one thing that I want to ask you. A guy like Subriel or like Artur Beterbiev, if they get knocked down, do you think there's less leniency from a ref to let them continue in a fight? Because I almost feel like it shocked me so much to see him stumble that the fight was called off. I don't think that it was stopped early. I agree with you. I think he would have gotten really hurt. But I'm interested to get your thoughts on when a power puncher gets knocked down, what do you think the referee and the fans observe in that moment?
I think going back again, I think being that he had never been down, and he takes shots. I've seen him being hurt before, a couple of times, even with Ergashev and the Hispanic guy, Mexican guy, Ramirez. He got hurt early in the first round, but then he came back and knocked out Ramirez in the second round. So he's gotten hurt before, but he's never been down. The difference was here that he was, in those 3 or 4 rounds, Dalton Smith landed some big bombs, especially in the fifth round when he landed those. I want to say for sure it's about 3 or 4 consecutive right hands, which were either straight right hands or over the top right hands. And of course, the last one that really ended the matters. I think the referee's taking all that in consideration, because that's punishment right there. That hurts you. And the last one that really landed at the right distance, picture perfect, and he put him down. That was it. And the way he got up and he was wobbling and just not, his balance wasn't there. He said, "I'm not gonna let him go. Why am I gonna let him get hurt?" I think he saved him from really getting hurt and maybe not even fighting again. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
it could have been ugly. I thought it could have ended
yeah.
really ugly. Now we got to ask you about the backlash. You found out about British boxing Twitter, I guess, at the minute this fight ended. But tell me about, like, I thought you called a very good fight. I always think you do a great job. I think you're a great analyst at taking emotion out of the situation. But tell me about some of your experience kind of dealing with kind of the way people perceived your call of this fight.
Well, listen, I'm reading a lot where, and of course, there's a lot of the British fans, they're Dalton Smith fans, and I understand, hey, but they're watching this fight with their heart, with their emotions, with their feelings. I'm not a fan, you know, I'm an analyst. But now, after the result, what I saw, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Dalton Smith. He did great, man. But they're saying that I'm not giving him credit for the punches he landed, the right hands he landed. I did. I mean, you could see me talking about it. Every time he landed those overhand rights, and even when he was going toe to toe, I was going like he's now he's rushing in with his head in. He's not supposed to do that because that's not the fight. That's not the game plan. He's supposed to box, but he's still going toe to toe, and he's landing some shots. So I was giving him his due. Everything he did, I I said it, but I don't know what fight they were watching. I mean, Matias was landing in the, I want to say, the third round. And the fourth, the fifth, to me, looked like Matias might have been starting to break him. Maybe not completely break him. We're still give and take, but he was getting the best out of him. I don't know if you saw it that way. Just because Matias was going back, but he was landing short uppercuts up the middle and short shots. Short uppercuts and short hooks. And Dalton was a little bit wide with his shots. He would land some, but he would also miss some. I think for me, Matias would land more. He was getting the best out of him. So they're just having a difficult problem understanding why, they feel that I wasn't giving Dalton his due. I do. How could you not? I mean, the way the fight ended, the way it was like a rocky moment, dude. He was bleeding. He was at times he was hurt, and the way he came back and was able to land those 3 or 4 powerful right hands and finish Matias, man, it was beautiful. I love boxing like that. I mean, that's what people love to see. That me being an aggressive fighter, I love fights like that. So my respects to Dalton Smith. I mean, he's a throwback, man. He's a old school fighter, which I like, and the way he did it last night, it was historic. It really was.
I was gonna get into that, but I mean the whole card had a lot of like make a boxing fan moments. They had the Cintron and the Sandoval fight where they both knock each other down. Pedro
Yeah,
Campa has that knockout of the year type knockout. Gets knocked out. I mean, Nestor Bravo knocks out Pedro
bravo.
Campa, which
Oh, that was
led
ugly.
editorial. I hope Pedro Campo doesn't fight again or takes a
I
really, really
agree.
long break, because that's the type of fight knockout I don't want to see you come back from early. And then we have this fight, which I think was a back and forth fight. I saw it as like Smith was maybe winning on points, but the emotion of the emotion and the damage being done, it felt like Matisse was doing his thing that he's done in the past, where maybe he's losing a fight, but it's going to become very violent and physical. And I think it's important for people to take into consideration all those fights he had before in the early part that you were a part of and you saw some of them. It's hard to not think about those with the way the cut and the blood on his face, to think
Right.
that Subriel wasn't changing the fight, at least to me. Like I thought Smith was winning the battle, but potentially Subriel was going to win a war with the physical nature the fight was turning into.
Exactly. I mean, I've seen Subriel fight Ergashev, another guy that came up on Showbox, and he was destroying guys. He's a monster. He's strong, just knocking fighters out. But with Matias, man, Matias destroyed him, man. So I seen Goyas when he fought Goyas in Puerto Rico. That was scary. Like I was hoping the referee would stop the fight like 1 or 2 rounds before the punishment. The way he was punishing Goyas and his facial expressions, it's beyond, man. It's you could his punches they're like thudding, like when you're there ringside, you kind of see more of the damage that his punches do than when you're watching from far away or you're watching on TV. It's not the same. It's not the same feeling. You don't get to see those facial expressions that the fighters make, and you don't get to see that just that relentless, constant, pressure that he just overwhelms you. And he's a combination puncher. He's a high volume. He doesn't get tired. He just, like I said, he's like the Energizer Bunny. I mean, he just gets better and stronger as the fight goes on, and he just mentally and physically breaks down his opponents, makes them give up. So I kind of saw that coming. In the third round, the fifth round, even though Dalton was fine with a lot of heart, a lot of cojones, you know how they say. But we've seen that before with other fighters where they're fighting that fight. Subriel is used to fighting that kind of pace. He's used to fighting that kind of fight. He by the third round, he already had Dalton fighting the way he wanted him to fight. Because I keep saying that was not Dalton's best plan. His plan was to be technical, box and move, get in and out, hold them, do kind of like what Liam Paro did, to offset that pressure, and he wasn't doing that. He just said, "Look, I'm just gonna go for broke." He was even squaring up. Look, he was even squaring up and throwing wide shots, because he kind of lost focus with that crazy pressure that Subriel Matias does, the way he attacks.
So just for clarity and maybe for the audience too, so he starts throwing wide shots and maybe a hurried pace because the relentless, nonstop, I wouldn't say fully technical pressure, but it's like someone's always in your face trying to do harm and they're throwing short shots. It starts to make you do things you don't traditionally do. Is that my understanding?
Exactly. You lose focus. It overwhelms you, and those shots are coming from everywhere, and it's not just 2 or 3 shots. It's consistent, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 punch combinations. And then you saw at the beginning of the fight, even when Dalton won that first round because he was boxing, but Matias, he knows what he was doing, like he probably said, I'm gonna give up 1 or 2 rounds, 3 rounds maybe. But every time Matias moved, I mean, every time Dalton was moving, doing his angles and circling around, Matias would be 2 steps ahead. Like he'll try to cut that distance. He wanted to shorten up that distance and just put that mental, pressure on him. Like, I'm here. I'm here. Hit me. I'll block, whatever, maybe give some. But he was closing that gap. He closes that gap quick. So, yeah, it's just overwhelming. And if you got to stay very relaxed, like Liam Parlo, man, he had the blueprint, you got to stay very relaxed and focused and not lose it, not lose your head. I felt like maybe Dalton probably lost his head at times, because of that pressure, and he decided, look, I'm just gonna go toe to toe with him. He was squaring up at times, throwing wide shots, but it just happened to be that look, he created the right distance, and maybe not. Let's put it that way. Maybe not. Subriel just underestimated his power, because there was times that Subriel got hit by right hands and he was like, yeah, give me some more. Give me, like, it was like no big deal. But those 3 right hands that he threw at the end, they were a big deal. Even the one before he knocked him out, that one did some damage too. That rocked him. And then the other one, that's what put him down. And
Yeah, the one
it
that
just went,
wobbled
everything
him and
happened.
then
Yeah,
caught
everything
him.
happened so quick, like even before that, um, before those 3 or 4 right hands, Subel was having it was going his way. It was going his way. He had just landed like a 3, 4 punch combination, and then a solid. He landed like a solid jab, and I even said on the, oh, that's a look. Dalton keeps running to that jab, and then all of a sudden, boom, those 3 or 4 right hands happened, and it was over. It's boxing. It happened that quick.
Why do you think people have so many different opinions on this fight, on the fight that they saw?
Because they're fans. Because they're fans, and they just gonna see it their way. That you gotta see it both ways. Hey, look, I'm not a I'm a fan of both of them, man. I'm a fan of both. Both of them are good fighters. To me, it didn't matter who would win this fight. You know, I'm gonna be an analyst. Me and Corey, man. Corey's a great analyst. We both are together. We're a good team. They were even saying that me and Corey were being biased. That there's no bias here. Like, we're trying to call what we see, and we gave Subriel his due, and we gave Dalton Smith, the new champion, his due too. We did. But sometimes these fans, they fall in love. They fall in love with their fighters. Um, they're more, their emotions get involved. Their heart gets involved. It's like, look, I'll give you just a quick example, like the Crawford and Canelo fight. There's people that are die-hard Canelo fans, bro, and they argue with me that Canelo won that fight, or the fight was closer than what they had it. That Canelo should have won the fight because he was a champion. No, Canelo lost that fight. I don't know. Did we talk about that fight? I was there. I mean, I was telling everybody Crawford was going to win the fight, and of course I'm Mexican, and I'm doing his Mexican telecast, and they're all like, "Oh, you know, you're wrong," and guess what? I was right, but you just have diehard fans that fall in love with their athletes, man. That I think that's the problem, and they don't see when the other guy like Subriel's damage that he was doing. Yeah, look, Subriel was catching him. I think just Subriel was getting the best of him at the end, right before the knockdown. And if you see Dalton comes back, he catches his shots were wide. Remember, he throws an overhand right. Okay, his shots were wide, and maybe he throw 5 punches, 2 of them would land. He would miss. If you watch closely, he would miss some of those shots, and some of those shots too. Matias, believe it or not, would block because Matias, as the fight goes, even his defense kind of gets a little bit better where he's blocking. You know what I mean?
I know
And
what
that's the
you
way I
like.
saw it.
He
Yeah,
kind of has like a flow to him. So the more he's in the ring, he catches the shots better. I was kind of curious
yeah. He gets
about
wind up. He just wind up. He gets going, and that's him.
he's like a great sparring partner who's doing damage in a pro fight. Like he finds that pace where he could just spar all day, it feels like.
Right. He could probably go 15 rounds like that. Absolutely. That's the way he operates. That's the way he operates, and that's why I say he's like the Energizing Bunny. He gets better as the fight goes on. First 2, 3 rounds, even 4 rounds. I mean, I talked it over with his trainer in the past too. Like, yeah, he might even give up 4 rounds. That's just him. But in those 4 rounds, he's still mentally breaking you down. And he'll land body shots here and there. He'll work the body. He might, like I said, but he's still with that pressure that he puts, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. You being there in person, it's not the average kind of pressure, like you have Hispanic fighters, we come forward. I was a Mexican fighter that came forward, but I didn't apply that kind of pressure. Is going 80, 90 miles an hour. Maybe me, I was going 50 miles an hour. You get it? His is like on you. It's you got to be there to see it in person, and how busy he is. Like he's relentless, man. He's relentless.
I get what I don't know if the listeners might get this. I think so because they're great fans of boxing, but from what I understand, it's like a wall with nails, and the nail wall is coming closer and closer every round. And it's like it's discouraging because whatever you hit the guy with, he's not going back. So it's just like you're like, what do I got to do to take breaks in this fight? What do I got to do to keep you off me?
You know what you got to do? What Dalton Smith did. He decided to go to. He went toe to toe. There was no answer. Like I mean, that's what you have to do. That's what he forces you to do. Like Eddie Hearn said it. Look, I mean, Dalton didn't know what else to do but go toe to toe and beat him in his own game, and that's what he did. That's the only thing you could do because Matias does that. That's what that's when you got fans and people that kind of just watch boxing but they don't know boxing like I do or maybe like you do like I or been in the ring. They don't know what it is to have a guy just pressure on you like Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., the way he would put pressure and work the body. They don't know what kind of you know damage that does and how that breaks you or that makes you lose focus because it wears you down. Now imagine a guy coming with even more activity and constant like it just it's there. It's too much. And what
Just feel like
do? You got to go.
every
It's almost like a street fight. You've got to find ways, man. But you can't. The thing is, you can't lose it because the more you lose it, you're gonna swing wild. You're gonna get hit. That's where it goes downhill.
just feel like I'm familiar with that style because everyone tried to spar me that way. So I feel like every sparring session was a Subriel Matias sparring. I gotta ask you, how good is Dalton Smith? Is he possibly the biggest British boxing star after this performance? Was this his Ricky Hatton moment? Is this up there with Ricky Hatton stopping Costa Tszyu as a massive moment? Where do you rank this amongst like basically current British boxers and maybe even a little historical?
I think he's up there, man. Right now I'm not gonna say he's the number one. There's been other bigger names, but even Ricky Hatton. I mean, and I can't been traveling all day, but I think he's got a bright future, man. He's gonna, his promoter Eddie Hearn's he's gonna take him to Sheffield and one of those big stadiums and fight maybe like the guy Azim, the guy that fought Scooby not too long ago. That would be a good fight to sell out a stadium. That's how I think it's huge. I think it'll be a huge fight, and then bring him back to the States, maybe fight. That division right now, man. You got
Tons of
coming
guys.
up.
You just got good.
Shakur, you got Pitbull, you got a lot of guys, man. Yeah, Richardson Hitchens. That would be interesting. Him and Richardson Hitchens. You got. I think they were talking about Puello too.
I think he's the mandatory, so he has
The
to fight.
mandatory, yeah.
Yeah,
So he has to fight that guy. So there's a lot of fights there that are looming that could make him even a bigger star. But
and Gary Antoine Russell too.
Gary Antoine Russell, even like Pitbull still there. I believe Rolly's still around, right? He's
I think he's
Oh, he's
welterweight
oh, he's
champion
welterweight
now.
now. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
but like when
You're
you
right.
think of British champions, don't quote me on this, don't source me, but I think it's Nick Ball, Jazza Dickens, possibly. He might be Irish. I'm not sure. I should do the research. And then you have Dalton Smith. I don't think there's another British male champion right now.
No, and plus, he's a good fighter. He put on a great show. I think he's family oriented, charismatic. He sells. He's got the charisma. So he could be a big star, a bigger star. And he beat a guy that wasn't so. I don't think he was supposed to win. For me, it was a big upset. I don't know how you saw it, but I think it was a big upset. I thought it was a big upset because I think it had other plans for Matias. I don't think. Well, obviously the British fans, they expected him to win, but I'm talking about just in general the fans all over the world, or the United States, Mexico, all over the world. I think it was an upset. I don't think they expected Matias to lose to him.
I mean, I agree with you. And also Jazza Dickens is from Liverpool, England. So he, just for those that care about that, he is a British champion. I think it was an upset. It also starts a really weird part of Subriel's career where does he become this high-level gatekeeper to guys like Adam Azim? Does he become a guy that Keyshawn Davis really wants to fight? Does he never fight again? Does he reinvent himself? It opens up a weird door because, like you said, his style was pressure and durability, and now we start to question the durability at this point.
Well, listen, look, I mean, guys with his style like that, obviously they don't, they can't go years, of fighting because it's a lot of wear and tear. He's got a lot of wear and tear. The training camps wear you out. And, I know the sparring sessions that he has with Nestor Bravo and El Ojo Santiago. I hear they're some wars, going on. So that's a lot of wear and tear on Subriel Matias. So I think he's going to have to start, from not from the bottom, but he's gonna have to fight a lower, work himself back up in some kind of way, because he did get knocked out. He was hurt, and I wouldn't jump on a fight like Keyshawn Davis or any other the other top 140 pounders. Even Richardson Hitchens, who didn't want to fight him before. Now Richardson might want to fight him. You know what I mean? He probably saw something that, oh man, I could outbox this guy. If I was Subriel's people that handle him, I would start. I wouldn't fight any of the top guys. I would start with get him maybe 1 or 2 fights to get going again, and then get him another fight, and if it doesn't happen, then you might think about retiring.
Yeah, it's real truth. How historic was this night amongst the fights that you broadcast? It might sound grandiose the day after, but I really feel like this is going to be possibly a bigger moment than we realize right now.
I think this fight got a lot of attention, man. I see a lot of, on social media, the way it was going back and forth, and then the way it ended. Just the whole excitement, and I'm a family man. You saw the fourth generation of family members there with Dalton Smith, his grandpa, his dad, and all that. Um, I was thinking the whole time, man, imagine if this fight would have been in Sheffield in one of those big stadiums. I mean, it was pretty loud there because, his people came out. He had some people there, and it was crazy. I mean, the way when the fight ended, and all his team jumped the ring, and his promoter Eddie Hearn, it was very exciting, man. And I saw even today they were promoting at Times Square, and they handed him his belt, and showed him on one of the screens there on Times Square, like highlights of his fight. It's a big deal, man. It's a really a big deal, and but I think when he goes back home and he hopefully he'll make his first title defense in Sheffield or something like that. It's gonna be huge, man. It's gonna be big.
Anything on the undercard that you wanted to point out? I really enjoyed your commentary on the early prelims with Keith Cologne and those guys, because I like the little technical breakdown.
Keith Cologne, man, good fighter. He's gonna learn from that fight. Who did he fight? Guevara, right? Guevara.
Veteran, yeah, Alberto Guevara.
A veteran that's been around, that's fought. He's been in there with a lot of fighters. Shakur, Leo Santa Cruz, and he fought an experienced guy, and I think that he's really gonna learn. It took him it took him a while to finally get him out of there. But he keeps that knockout streak going. He's 9-0 with 9 knockouts. But this fight he really learned from, and that's gonna pay off, and it's gonna pay off dividends and later on in his career, because Guevara made him work. He didn't make it easy, and he was finally able to get him out of there. Also, Bravo, the way he knocked out Campa, who Campa I thought is a pretty decent fighter. When he fought at Lojo Santiago, like he was ready, and he got rocked in the first round. He got caught cold, and I thought that fight was gonna go more rounds, Bravo and Campa. But you saw what Bravo did. I was talking to his coach, and he said, "Yeah, the plan is not to fight him Mexican style. We're gonna be aggressive, but be cautious of his defense when he's coming in, because I know Nestor Bravo's last fight when he fought in Donjani and he lost to him. He was getting hit too much, so they worked on their defense, their counter punching, and the way he caught Campa. And Campa, it was no. So I mean, he took a dive. I mean, he literally don't. I mean, not took a dive, but the way
it was scary. He fell face first.
Face, kind of like Manny Pacquiao with Marquez, man. But it was more in the middle of the ring. That was a big win for Nestor Bravo. I like what I saw him, and as a matter of fact, I saw him today when we were leaving, and I said, "Man, you look good. Keep it up." And I think overall, for the card was great, man. Fresh Productions put on a great event. Um, maybe the tickets didn't sell like how they wanted to, but hey, it's a good start. It was their first promotion there at the Barclays Center. They wanted to bring Matias there. At the end of the day, it was a great first card that I covered. This for 2026, it's a great way to open up the year. It was exciting. I think got a lot of attention, man. It keeps getting attention, and the British fans keep talking about me, so that's all that matters.
Well, I enjoyed the fight card. I enjoyed the call. I enjoy being able to talk to you when you're very tired the day after. Is there anything that you want to say to my audience before you leave? Because we got our next guest about to come on to break down Alexis Rocha-Raul Curiel. So I just wanted to give you a second to do say your goodbyes, or if you have anything you want to promote.
No, just my son. We took a loss. A little bit of a controversial loss. Our last fight, 13-1 now, but he'll be back February 21st. He'll be fighting here in Houston, Giovanni Marquez, and I have my next show is in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with Dimitri Salida Promotions, Joseph Pagan. He'll be fighting, so make sure you guys check me out. I love to call fights. And I look forward to a great year of calling fights in 2026.
Come on, guys. Support Raul, man. He's one of the best at doing it, and he's a real guy. So for my listenership, support him because, I feel like you always give a fair shake on the fight. Like you never kind of sugarcoat it or do a company line. You just say what you see.
That's what I do, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Now I got to round up my next guest, but I appreciate you coming on, Raul.
Okay, man. No, I appreciate you too, man. Keep in touch, bro.
Okay, I will. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So that was Raul Marquez, the legend. And now we're going to have our next guest on. And it is going to be exciting. We're going to talk about Agit Kabayel while I wait for him. We're going to read your comments. Saludos from Jesus M. Thank you, man. Said, would Matias utilize, would Subriel Matias, I say Matias sometimes, Matias utilize the jab, help more with his defense? Quite possibly. I've never heard of the jab not helping. Then we have title contender Ian Green. Hey, hope all is well, champs. Thank you, Ian. And bipolar boxing picks. Shout out to Dalton Smith. Didn't pick him because I didn't know if he had that dog in him. Now we all know he has that and he can box very well. Excited for this coming weekend. I'm going to start with my Agit Kabayel rant because, this guy is friggin' awesome. I think Dakota hit it on the head. He's a lot like Joe Frazier. And just like that, Zach is here. Zach, you're jumping in right on the live stream. We're just doing it for you. If you need a second, we'll remove you. This is our second guest. We're doing a jam-packed show right after Dakota takes a sabbatical. You were following in after the legend Raul Marquez gave his analysis on Dalton Smith versus Subriel Matias.
You there, Lukey?
I am. Can you not hear me? Okay. Oh. Well, we're going to remove you from the chat for a second, and then we'll see if you can get the audio. This is doing it in real time, so we're going to see. Can you hear me now?
I got you now, mate. I got you now.
Okay, so when we do a live show, it gets a little funky, but now we have Zach. Zach, why don't you introduce people to your lovely platform? I'm a huge supporter of your show. I think it's a wonderful podcast, and you're joining us on Monday from Australia.
Yes, mate. Thanks, Lukey. No, thanks again for having me, mate. I'm a massive fan of you as well and everything you do. I have a show called the Unofficial Scorecard Podcast on all audio platforms, and I've followed your taking a leaf out of your book, Lukey, recently, and started going on YouTube. So, it's available anywhere, and just love talking boxing to anyone that'll have me, mate. So, no, I'm pumped to be here, and thanks again for having me.
Right on. Agit Kabayel, how friggin' good is he?
Man, he's pretty good. Like, this run that he's been on recently is so impressive. Like, Arslanbek Makhmudov into Frank Sanchez, into Zhilei Zhang. Admittedly, with respect to Damian Knebel, a little bit of a step down in this last fight, but still an undefeated guy and a dangerous guy, and someone who gave Kabayel fits in the first round. I didn't think this was Kabayel's most polished performance. I thought he rushed his work and got a little bit sloppy, but ultimately he gets it out of there in 3. And mate, I'd love to see him in with anyone at the top end of the heavyweight division, Usyk included. Not that I think it will happen, but yeah, mate, I got a feeling from reading your commentary, Luca, that you were pretty impressed. I certainly was as well.
I think Dakota hit it on the head. I really think that he's like a Joe Frazier like figure, smaller than the other heavyweights, uses conditioning to beat guys, and it's kind of very blue collar. And you can make a case outside of Usyk, he has the best resume in heavyweight. And I want to see him and Fabio Wardley because that's for like the modern. I don't know if you're like me. Maybe you're like me. Maybe you'll just agree with me. How much longer is Usyk in the sport? Maybe a year and a half at most. Maybe it could be even one fight. To me, Fabio Wardley versus Kabayel is the best fight that can be made for the next generation.
Well, mate, it's certainly up there. Yeah, I think Usyk said himself that he sees himself having 2 or 3 more fights, but yeah, like you said, it's boxing, mate. These guys can change their minds on a dime. So it wouldn't surprise me if he only has 1 more and got out with nothing left to prove. But I'd never thought of that matchup with a Fabio Wardley. Like, absolutely, why not? Yeah, I have given it zero thought, but no, I'd certainly be keen to watch it. I'd be excited for it, that's for sure.
I mean, I've never been so wrong about a fighter and never enjoyed it more. I thought he beat Makhmudov. I didn't think he'd beat Frank Sanchez. I was scared when he beat Zhang. And I thought this was actually a pretty tough fight. And the first round, for those that didn't watch it, he came out with like a little bit of blood on his nose. Didn't go super smooth, right? And then, like you said, he gets him out of there in 3. I don't think anyone could say this is a controversial stoppage. He just broke him down. To me, the pace, conditioning, and the body shots he puts on guys, it's unlike really any other heavyweight I've seen in a long time.
Mate, that's a great observation, that the body punch, the commitment to the body is so impressive. And when I was watching the fight yesterday, it reminded me of one of my favorite quotes that I've ever heard in boxing. Paulie Malignaggi said it. I'm not sure if it's his, but he was the one that said it when I heard it. And he said, in boxing, you have to know what you are, but even more importantly, you have to know what you aren't. You know, and it seems like to me from the outside looking in that Kabayel, he has such a good sense of what his strengths are, and he fights to his strengths. He knows he's not going to sit back on the outside and throw a long Deontay Wilder-style right hand and get you out of there. So he gets inside the power on these bigger guys, and like you said, he weaponizes his conditioning. He weaponizes his volume punching, especially to the body, and he weaponizes his toughness. You know, he's rolling the dice. He's backing his toughness to stay in the pocket and back his conditioning to wear you down. I think the Zhang Zhang fight was the perfect example of his toughness too. When he got clipped and dropped, you know, he stood back up. He took 10 to 15 seconds, and then he got straight back into work, you know, with no delay. It was so impressive. Now I'm still like a hamster wheel. I'm thinking about that Fabio Wardley fight. I love it, mate. It never occurred to me yesterday, but no, I'd be signing up for that fight for sure. But no, an impressive guy and on a great run nonetheless.
It's one of the best fights for a hardcore fight fan, I think, because Wardley has that one punch power that can change everything. But Kabayel has this pace and this motivation that can take desire out of a certain level of guy. So I think
sorry. But yeah, no, look, I love the smaller heavyweights too. I much prefer. I'd be interested to get your point, mate. Like, I know there's guys out there that love watching the real big guys, the big power punchers fight. I much prefer, like, obviously Usyk's a freak of nature and a one of a kind, but I much prefer watching these smaller, sort of more volume orientated heavyweights like Kabayel. Would you fall in that same boat as well?
I do, because I've grown up kind of going to club show boxing, and there's nothing worse than like a really big heavyweight that throws 20 punches around. I'd rather see someone that comes in about that 6. It's funny to say a 225-pound, 6'2" man is small, but in modern heavyweight, that's like considered little, which I was thinking about that in my column. It's like Kabayel is considered a smaller heavyweight at whatever he weighs in 6'3", but then if it was Muhammad Ali's era, he'd be the same size essentially as Muhammad Ali, and no one ever talks about his height difference. But I do like height heavyweights that throw punches, and the fights aren't you go, I go. I feel like a certain level that's not the highest level of heavyweight, you get guys taking turns, and especially in the later rounds, the conditioning might not be there. So he's a refreshing addition to this heavyweight era.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. You hit the nail on the head there, and I guess that's just a sign of the times and this super heavyweight era that we're in. But you know, Usyk is obviously leading that class, and Kabayel's much to the same frame and dimensions as him, and they're showing people that these smaller heavyweights can get it done. They can be more dynamic. They can outwork these guys by employing different tactics, or tactics that the really large big guys aren't used to, as you pointed out, making them fight at a pace that's uncomfortable to them. And you know, look, I'm a biased Australian, so I don't know, maybe Jai Opetaia could find some success up at heavyweight one day with his movement and style and speed, and his smaller stature compared to the big guys too. So no, it's an exciting time for that next generation, 100%.
Not to bury my lead, but in a week or so, I'm going to do an underrated title holders, and Jai Opetaia is my number one. I think that people don't give him credit for just how good he is. And I think I think him and Oscar Collazo and Bekram Murtazaliev are 3 world champions that truly don't get as much credit as they really should currently. And I think Jay is the most. Like, he's just rifling off title defenses, and he's holding a belt for quite a period of time. I think since 2023 off the top of my head. That would be
so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's starting to be a while ago now. You know, that's to hold a belt for that long. That means something. The chat said we on the lead. No, the lead was way back. You can start or you can listen now and listen to the refresh. Kabayel had no chance because Sean George didn't train him. Well, I mean, I love Sean George as a trainer, but I don't think you can always just do an A to B comparison when a great coach isn't in the corner. That's that. Sometimes there's things like, you know, the fight was in Europe. Do you want to train in America? Are there issues? Like, I get what they're saying, but I don't think that life is always just that simple. So I think, to me, this was maybe I overrate Kabayel, but I think that fighting a 6'9" guy who has power, who has really long arms, is just a hard fight. I don't think that's an easy fight to me.
No, absolutely. And Kabayel made that first round really difficult for Kabayel. He wasn't coming in there to lay down. You know, he knew it was his opportunity. He went to the man's backyard and he put his best foot forward. You know, ultimately it wasn't enough, but yeah, he absolutely came with intentions of winning that fight. It looked like to me, he made it tough. Kabayel proved his toughness again, as he did in the Zhang fight. You know, he's a top 5 guy. He's a legit top tier, you know, top 5 guy. I want to see him in with any of those guys. I think he's going to be competitive with all of them at the bare minimum. So, yeah, all credit to Kabayel. He impressed the hell out of me, and he didn't die wondering. So that's a credit to him and his team as well.
Okay, now didn't die wondering. You give us a good soundbite. Now we got to go to someone that I do wonder about, Jeyvier Herrera. People have brought my guy Man K Crazy in the chat have brought him up a bunch of times. I have never seen it with him. I've never seen it. And then I get that he gets dropped by Ricardo Nunes. I get that it's like there's a double standard with Abdullah Mason. But there is like a thing where Abdullah Mason looked like a superstar, gets dropped and does something awesome. Herrera got dropped in this fight, kind of did the same things. One on being like the younger, more athletic guy, gets the stoppage. It's kind of a weird stoppage. Wouldn't have changed the outcome. But I just don't see it. Like do you get what I'm saying? Where when I say a guy gets knocked down in the first round, it feels more cautionary than it does. Oh hell yeah, he passed a milestone. We know something. Like it felt more like I could see him losing a world title fight in the first round, getting hit with that shot by a bigger puncher than Abdullah Mason getting dropped in the first round. You go, man, there's some grit to this kid. How did you interpret this?
Yeah, very, very similar, Lukey. And yeah, I couldn't help but thinking of the Abdullah Mason comparisons. They just have a similar posture and a similar look and, yeah, kind of fight in a similar, flashier way. But to your point, I think the difference with Abdullah Mason is he's a bit, as flashy as he is and as unique as his style is, I think he's spent more time mastering the basics, and when he needs the basics, he can revert back to them. Whereas I think with Herrera, he probably hasn't. As you mentioned, he got dropped and he didn't really make an adjustment. He didn't really change anything from a defensive standpoint. Whereas Mason sort of has a couple of extra gears. You know, you can almost see him going, okay, plan A didn't work. I can change this. I can, you know, if I've got my hands down, I can put my hands back up. I can stop shooting from the hip. I can throw a more traditional jab and protect my chin with the shoulder. Just little things like that. Whereas Herrera, to your point, as you pointed out, kept doing the same thing. Ultimately, it was enough. I mean, we could have another conversation how Ricardo Nunes even was able to fight for an interim world title, which was kind of a crazy.
You know what? Let's have this conversation. So the WBC interim world lightweight title, did I say it right?
Probably
was just contested between O'Shaquie Foster and Stephen Fulton Jr. after Fulton missed weight. Then Foster gave it up, I guess, or do you know what I don't know what happened, but it was contested. It was wasn't that fight contested for the interim WBC lightweight title? I'm nearly let me facts matter, so let's go through this. But
I'm really bad at keeping up with all these sort of
okay, I'm nearly positive, but I will go back and fact check as I make this point. Then it's now contested between Herrera and Nunes. In the chat, Man K Crazy, my guy Man K Crazy, one of the best. Man K Crazy is one of the best people on YouTube. Smart guy. Herrera's just 23. I agree with that, right? Ricardo Nunes, really the last notable win he had was against Alfredo Santiago. That is a good win. I'm not going to point it out, but a lot of his fights, you know him because he lost. Like Gervonta Davis is probably his most notable. He's fought in some Olympians and some high-level guys. So I'm not going to diminish, but it didn't didn't truly feel like a world title level fight to me. And given that Shakur Stevenson could be moving up to junior welterweight, who knows if he comes back, then he could be elevated to an outright champion. And it just lacked that. It didn't feel of the same level to make the same comparison of Abdullah Mason versus Sam Noakes, which felt like, even though it was for a vacant belt, it felt like it had some championship merit, felt like there was a certain level of intensity. So I don't even know where I was going, but I just laid that out, and I'm just going to let you do your monologue while I fact check.
Oh, no, mate. I think we were talking about, how Ricardo Nunes was able to fight for that title. But as you went through there, we don't even know the status of that title or how it was vacant. It's an interim title. I don't know. We're getting right into the frustrating minutiae of boxing that, we as fans will want to avoid. So maybe
I fact checked it just to be a rude host and interview. It was contested on December 6th, and Oshaki Foster won it over Stephen Fulton. And then less than a month later, Jadier Herrera beats Ricardo Nunes to win the title. So that was the thing. I don't know. Like, to me, with Herrera, I see promise, but I see also someone that uses his legs too much. There's not a lot of tech. Like, when you think of Cubans, you think of like a technical mastery. I see someone who maybe excessively moves, keeps his hands too low. There's promise, but I don't really see him improving per se. He's kind of moving very slow by a Cuban boxer standard. You know what I mean? Like, normally those Cuban fighters within 10 fights, they're in 10 rounders. And maybe sometimes I need to get glasses, right? Sometimes I don't see things and I'm wrong, but right now I just don't flat out see it.
No, I'm the same. And I guess the main red flag's a strong word, but the big sort of drawback,
cautionary tale. We'll say in a movie when when a pot maybe leads to an explosion, you get the pot simmering a scene before, and you see it over, and then it lays the groundwork for a future tragedy in the movie. We'll say that there's some foreshadowing that you saw.
Yes, that is a great way to put it. Very poetic, cinematic. But the biggest thing for me was Herrera's defense is all athletic reaction. It's not fundamental base. So, and that athletic reactionary defense is fantastic when you can see the shots coming. But when you can't, it's a real problem because you've got no other way to defend yourself. And, Nunes dropped him early and kept landing that right hand throughout the fight too. So, whereas we were talking about the difference with Abdullah Mason has a few extra gears. He starts with the athletic, flashy stuff, the reactionary stuff. But if it doesn't work, he's got other places to go. So far, I haven't seen those other places. Those other gears that Herrera can have. But to your man's point in the chat, he is only 23. He's a developing talent. He's won a fairly significant, I guess we can debate the significance of the title all we want, but puts him right in at the deep end at world level. So we'll see how he can develop from here. But as yet, I would be very similar to you. I just haven't quite seen it yet.
In the chat, Queensberry will protect Herrera unless Riyadh calls. That's basically that. Now I want to go to a card that's happening. I'm not sure if you're covering it. I don't know if you are, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but Nikita Tszyu versus Michael Zerafa, very Australian card. I feel like there's a lot of No Limit and Tasman cards that are coming up on the radar of world boxing, but really set your poetics, like set the stage for this. Assume my listeners know only Nikita Tszyu because of a famous last name, to the sense, and very briefly might have seen Michael Zerafa, but have no huge context of him. Just paint the picture of why this is relevant.
Yeah, sure, mate. Well, I guess to start, internationally, it isn't relevant at all. It's relevant domestically in Australia, and we're all pretty fired up about it. But we also acknowledge at the same time, like guys like yourself, it's probably going to be, I'm sure if it was available on YouTube or something like that, you would check it out. You're a huge boxing fan, but yeah, it's not really gonna get the shockwaves and the ramifications internationally that I think the promoters in No Limit would want and are hoping for and are trying to market that way. It's a very Australian centric fight. But if anyone hasn't seen Nikita Nikita. He's had 11 fights. He's 11-0 with 9 knockouts. I personally think that he's been matched way tougher than Tim Tszyu, his big brother, at 11 fights in. They've moved him so much more quickly. And the difference with Nikita is in the amateurs, he's a southpaw. He was like a real skilled, slick boxer with not seemingly a lot of power, but sometimes it's hard to tell if amateurs can punch when they turn pro. He had a couple of years away from the sport. Tim turned pro, gained notoriety in Australia on the world level, and Nikita decided, oh man, I need a piece of this. I've got to come back. But he came back totally different than the way we thought when he turned pro. We thought we were still going to see that southpaw slick technician. Well, from straight off of his pro debut, he announced that his nickname was the Butcher, and he goes after guys and he just tries and bashes them. That's really what he does. He's an aggressive fighter. He's defensively flawed, similar to his brother. He's reckless. He's already been dropped a couple of times throughout his career, even though he has been match tough. He's been wobbled a couple of times. So far, he's passed all the tests. But yeah, similar to Herrera that we were just talking about. And I literally just finished recording my show with Anthony Cox, who you're very much familiar with, Lukey, one of the best boxing writers in Australia, if not the world, in my opinion. And we did a pretty in-depth breakdown on Nikita, and we both sort of came to the same conclusion that he gets, and this was actually Anthony's point, he's getting better offensively and he's improving on the things that he does already really well, but the same holes are still there. So as different in style, orthodox southpaw as he is to Tim, and as sort of offensively gifted as they are, there still are those defensive holes. And Michael Zerafa, I'm probably going on a little bit too long about this, but Michael Zerafa, for all the ridicule he gets internationally, and people think he's a stripper and all this stuff, which he might be, I have no idea. But the guy's a warrior. He's lost at the top level multiple times. He's been stopped a few times. But, I mean, I have all the respect for him in the world. And especially on the Australian scene, he's been in absolute warns. The two fights with Jeff Horn would be the best example of those. So I'm sure people have seen some sort of highlights. But yeah, for me, ultimately, it's a big fight domestically. But yeah, I wouldn't be expecting like someone like yourself, Lukey, to be writing a recap article on the Monday morning in the US.
No, probably not. In the chat, does Nikita have issues making 154? This fight is at 157. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Zerafa's had the majority of success in his career at 154, but the last couple of years he's campaigned at 160, so they just found a catch weight in between.
Okay, so that makes sense. That's just super simple. And that's also good to ask questions like that, because false narratives could be put out there that aren't factually accurate. So that's good we asked that. Is this too much for Tszyu? Like, Zerafa's a solid, do I call him gatekeeper or veteran? What's the term?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for him, he was absolutely blown out in 2 rounds rather easily by Erislandy Lara in his world title shot a year and a half ago or so, which was incredibly disappointing. And, he's spoken about that in interviews within Australia, that, he didn't show up and he wasn't mentally there and all that sort of thing, which sucks for him, because at his age, 33, 34 years old, it's going to be very difficult to get another opportunity, even though, the 160 landscape is maybe not as stacked as it has been in the past. But yeah, in my opinion, I just feel like the thing with Zerafa is he's always been able to take advantage of fighters that prioritize offense over defense. He's always been able to find those holes. He struggles with guys that have a solid defense and box with him and can catch him. Nikita's not that guy. Nikita prioritizes offense over defense. I personally think it's a little bit too much too soon. I like Zerafa, I said on my show just then, like a stoppage in the 7th round, but somewhere around the mid rounds more broadly. I just think he's going to be able to take advantage of those openings and those defensive flaws that Nikita has at this stage of his career. But look, anything can happen. Nikita's tough. He's been rocked. He's gotten back up every time he's been dropped, and he's won every fight he's been in so far. So, to break that man's will has seemingly been a pretty tough thing to do now. Can Michael do it? I think he can, but we'll see in a couple of days.
So my initial gut feeling was the same as you. And I thought that it was mostly because I just haven't seen Nikita Tszyu enough. So I was probably doing that lazy sports writer thing where I've heard Michael Zerafa. I've seen him kind of be a long-lasting veteran, and maybe I don't know. I also remember my friends in Australia, not just yourself, but I have others, which is shocking that I have friends, that Nikita was thought of as the better brother. that Tim was actually, people actually on the come up really thought, and I think he went to school or something and then he came back, and so far it hasn't been the greatest start to this career for Nikita, is the perception I see. Truth or false to those?
That would be grading really harshly, but I sort of tend to agree with you. And yeah, Nikita was the better amateur. They both only had about 30 fights or so, but Nikita was able to win an Australian junior title. To my knowledge, I think Tim may have won a state title. I don't know. I'd have to confirm that. I'm almost positive he didn't win a national title. So the natural ability seemed to be Nikita's. But yeah, he went away to university and studied architecture, I think, and took 6 or 7 years away from the sport and then came back late. But yeah, I mean, look, he's 11-0 with 9 knockouts. That's pretty hard to judge in a negative light. But I sort of tend to agree with you. I think the upside for Nikita is so high, and I'm just waiting for him to bring out that boxing ability, which I know he has, but he just loves getting in brawls. You know, he says it at the press conferences. You know, he's a quirky dude. His quotes are pretty out there. He thinks a little bit differently, and he's, you know, marches to the beat of his own drum. He likes getting in fights. So I don't think we're going to see that boxing ability come out. And for that reason, instead of sort of maybe not grading him as having a negative start to his career, or maybe not the best it could be, but certainly I thought we would have seen more ability, more traditional boxing ability, more better defense, and him using his brain rather than his fists and his head as a punching bag like he has been for the first few fights of his career. But I mean, he's getting up there now. He's 27, so we don't generally see too much evolution once you get sort of out of your early 20s. At least I think. I hope I'm wrong. So he's probably going to continue down the road he's on now. Is that enough to get to world level? That's ultimately what we grade everyone on. I don't think. Like, who's the last world champion you saw that is getting rocked and dropped in his first 11 fights? You know, it doesn't really happen. So I really want to see those defensive flaws tightened up. Can he do it? Does he want to do it? I mean, that's the question. I'm not sure.
Zerafa got dropped in his last fight versus a nobody. What should we know about that?
Yeah, the ref bodged that call. It was a slip in his glove touch. Did he actually fall down? Yeah, either way, it was a slip. It was a bad call. He wasn't hurt even in the slightest. It looks bad on paper, but if you watch the fight, it's just about bodged call.
Guy, Julius, Alabama. Tszyu versus Zerafa will be a bloodbath. What do you think of that prediction?
Yeah, it certainly could be. It absolutely could be. It's sort of, it really depends. Like, the thing with Zerafa, is, you know, when he's had his best performances, and it's been obvious that he's been fighting to a game plan. It was when he was with his old team. I won't get into that whole thing, but he's left them. There was a whole legal dispute and all this stuff. And since then, he actually met Nonito Donaire at some sort of convention somewhere, and they linked up and have seemed to have a great relationship. So Zerafa says, "Oh, Nonito trains me," but he's not in the gym in Melbourne with him holding pads. So I don't know, maybe they talk on WhatsApp every now and then about game plan stuff. But really, and I asked this to Anthony just, you know, an hour ago when we were talking about it on my show. I'm like, he's got his ear to the ground much more than I do. I'm like, who's his team? Who does he trains with? We don't know. He has his own private gym that seemingly is a sort of boxing fitness style gym that he trains out of. We don't know anyone in his corner. We don't know what his preparation's been like. We don't know. Like, it seems to me Zerafa's the type of guy that thrives when he is under the tutelage of one specific mind, and they create a game plan together, and then they go to the fight night and they execute that game plan. That's when he's historically had his best performances. But we don't know anything about his preparation this time. You know, is he just backing his experience at this point to go, yeah, I've fought all over the world, I can get in there and just work it out on the night? Maybe. But history would suggest that's when he struggles. So it's a difficult one to answer. But I mean, domestically, this is why this fight's so interesting, because there are so many different questions from each side. But yeah, I would imagine if you're in the UK or you know, another part of the world, and you look at the fight schedule coming up, you'd be like, Jesus Christ, these guys have got to pay $70 for this. Sucks to be them. I'll skip that one. So yeah, it's a tough one, but we're pretty pumped over here for it.
Well, I'm going to definitely be looking for the result, and I hope they have like a fight highlight video recap. Shoeshine Boxing, what up, Lukey? Big win for the Niner fans. Now we need to watch Now I need to watch the full Dalton versus Matias fight. Yes, Julius, Alabama. For all my bettors, no distance on Tszyu, Zerafa. and Zerafa is a 15-year pro looking to cash out. That all valid opinions. Give us a fight or two on this undercard that people should be looking at from an Australian perspective that people are overlooking.
Yeah, so it's way down on the card. Liam Wilson's fighting a Filipino called Rodex Piala, something like that. I've forgotten his name. I apologize. Who's a 12-1, just with the one stoppage victory. Who I've had a look at a couple of his previous fights. He's a pretty tidy operator. I mean, obviously the record suggests he's not a huge power puncher, but the thing with Liam, I'm sure as everyone, your listeners and viewers would know, Lukey, would know him from the fights with Emmanuel Navarrete and Oscar Valdez, and that Navarrete one kind of is the fight that got away a little bit from an Australian perspective. There's a few what ifs in that fight. And the fight with Valdez, I thought he was doing really well until he went forehead to forehead and started brawling. So the problem with Liam is he's a really good boxer, but again, a little bit like Nikita, he's too reckless. And in his previous fight, I thought he blended the boxing and the aggressiveness much better. Even though maybe this opponent, Piala, isn't a top 10 guy that's going to get him into another world title shot or another opportunity in America or overseas on a big card. But it's going to be important for his development to see if that last fight was an anomaly and he sees the record and the low stoppage ratio that Piala has and goes, oh, grouse, I'm going to go in and, I'll throw the kitchen sink at this guy and get in a 10-round war and not look very good because he's too over aggressive. Or if he's learned his lesson and he can mix that boxing and aggression better and box first and wait for that opportunity to present itself and then take advantage of it. So from an Australian perspective, and I think a little bit of an outside perspective, that's an interesting one. Also, we got Dempsey McKean, who I'm sure you guys would be familiar with, the heavyweight who most recently lost to Moses Atoma in the first round. He's coming back to Australia fighting a guy called Tozi Vujitsu, who's 8-2, with the winner of that looking like they could fight for the Australian heavyweight title. So there's two guys on the card there that are certainly interest for us that I reckon you guys would have heard of before and probably be keen to see how they go as well.
Yeah, really, really interesting. In the chat, they said Wilson can't cut off the ring. I know Wilson has a huge left hook. Also, McKean is big, clunky, stiff with cement shoes. They asked who is
also fair.
Also true. Who's the face of Australian boxing to you is a question that's being asked.
Wow, geez. I mean, I guess there's probably two answers. I mean, I guess the commercial and the most well-known one and the one that's been pushed the most would be Tszyu still. Like that, it is unbelievable how much significance that surname holds in this country. Like, I think I can barely even believe it. I think it's hard for people from other countries to understand. Like, what Costa did here is, he's truly a living legend. It's very hard for any combat sports athlete, especially boxers, to really like transition into a mainstream in Australia. It's football and cricket and other sports, rugby. It's very difficult for boxers to get that attention. But Costa Tszyu got it, and certainly Tszyu gets it too. So I'd say commercially it's him. For me, like who I look at as the flag bearer and who I look at as our best fighter, we mentioned him before, it's Jai Opetaia all day. That's who I would like to see get that recognition and that push and that coverage. But I mean, you could buy the paper every single day of the week and you won't see his name in it, which is a massive shame. But yeah, you'd need someone who with way more of a better understanding of the media landscape to explain to you why that is. But yeah, so there's probably two there. It's probably Tim, but it should be Jai.
Okay, we'll have to get Anthony Cox on one time, and then that'll be his job to explain the media landscape for it.
He's the
final segment. We're going to do Alexis, Rocha, Raul, Curiel too. Any thoughts on this? Like, do you? Well, I guess I should start with your first thought. Do you care, as an Australian fight fan? Does this fight even matter to you?
Yeah, it does. No, I enjoyed the first fight. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this is, Australia is so backwards in like this fight card with Nikita Tszyu and Michael Zerafa. It should be available internationally, but it's not. And we're just so behind the times here. And I don't know. Anyway, it frustrates the hell out of me. But the reason I am excited for this fight is because it's worldwide available globally on DAZN. Anyone can watch it. So, and I was able to watch the first fight, and that's how you build a sport. So, yeah, to answer your question, absolutely, I'm looking forward to it. I thought the first fight was good. I didn't think it was like a unbelievable fight of the year contender, but I'm a boxing fan. If I can sit down on a Saturday or a Sunday at lunchtime and watch an awesome 10, 12 round fight, back and forth action between two tough as hell guys, I mean, sign me up. I'm taking that seat on the couch all day, every day. So I really enjoyed the first fight. I think it's going to be an interesting rematch. It's interesting that Roach has been out of the ring for so long. So to answer your question, I'm absolutely fired up for it. Are you, Lukey? Are you maybe not?
I'm a loser. So every week I get excited for the fights. Even when they're not good, I talk myself into it. But for this one, there is a storyline I'm very excited about because there's a double-edged sword. I'm not sure. You're a boxing guy, so you know the thing. But I think the biggest story for me going into this fight is Robert Garcia. Robert Garcia led Giovanni Santillan to an upset knockout victory over Alexis Rocha. He is now the coach of Raul Curiel. That's an interesting storyline because Alexis Rocha was basically on the verge of winning a world title or going to a superstar-like level, and then he didn't. And then that loss basically set the stage for Brian Norman to have the year that he did because he knocked out Gio and went on. So I'm curious to see if Robert Garcia being in Curiel's corner makes a difference, if there's a change, or if Alexis Rocha can avenge that night that kind of derailed his path to stardom. So I guess I'm more interested at it from a spiritual perspective because there's Curiel, who has a chance to be a Mexican contender, a top up and comer. But if we're being honest, right, up until his last fight, I feel like he's underachieved in a lot of fights. He's gotten stoppages, but against Rocha, I feel like there was maybe something he could have done. He left something on the table, and Rocha probably fought to the best of his abilities. Probably won the first fight. If we're going to pick a winner, I think he did a little more. I'm curious to see who can make an adjustment, but who moves up in the division, because the division has changed. These guys are in the same position. There's not as many big names in this division. The winner gets an opportunity more than likely. I'm curious, what is it? 13 months later, they're fighting. I'm curious to see who's made the improvements.
And is Curiel still with Freddie Roach?
No, he left Freddie Roach, and his first fight with Robert Garcia was last. I don't know if I thought I was saying that, but I might have said it wrong. So his first fight with Robert Garcia was last year.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I misinterpreted. I've been talking for about 3 hours. My brain is like a mush at this point.
It's okay. I just sit in this room and talk boxing all day, so I get it. But
I got you.
So I mean, that's the storylines for me about this fight. I don't really know the identity of Rocha as a fighter. I know he's a good fighter, but I think he's got a little bit of Nikita Tszyu in him, where he can box, but he has a tendency to want to fight guys. And I haven't really seen Curiel really show his Mexican Olympian pedigree. It feels like he's really trying to get in there and exchange and land big shots, and at times falls in love following guys around the ring. So I don't really know who to give the edge to in this fight. Do you have any idea how it will even look?
Not really. I'm sort of expecting much of the same. And as you sort of mentioned as well, the question in rematches is always who can adjust more. So, and I agree with you. I didn't score it round by round, but my gut feel at the time was Rocha probably did enough to get it done, to get the decision on the cards. So that's like, well, someone's got to change something up. So what can Curiel do it? Like what to me, what can he do? He can be more aggressive and throw more punches. What can, I think the guy that can make a better game plan adjustment is Alexis Rocha. But as you pointed out, he's got that Nikita Tszyu in him, Can he do it? Can he be disciplined for 36 minutes or less, or less if something presents itself? I really don't know. My gut feel is we're going to get more of the same from Rocha. I think the fight is going to become a brawl a little earlier than it did last time. It was a bit of a slow burn, the first fight. But I think Curiel is going to have to put his foot down and be more aggressive. And I think that's going to bring the aggressiveness of Rocha out. So maybe not like all rematches. I think this will probably be a better fight earlier than the first one, but I don't really know which guy has the edge to definitively change something up significantly in terms of sealing that victory, one or the other. They're kind of sort of not evenly matched in the same respects, but what Curiel does good and can take advantage of, Rocha can do something different. So they kind of even themselves out. I really don't know. And a lot of times the fights where I've got the most question marks are the ones I'm looking forward to the most, because I really just don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I'm trying to will it into being a better fight than the first one. But yeah, to answer your question, mate, I really don't know. But that just lends itself to more excitement for me.
Chat, Curiel will beat up Rocha. Why has Rocha been out for more than a year? Don't have an answer to that. Curiel is going to stop Rocha, and Manny Flores got outboxed the last fight by Jorge Chavez. He has to throw more punches. So I just want to finish up on this one, because it really, I want to ask you a question. How old do you think Alexis Rocha is, if you had to guess?
33?
He's 28.
Is he? Wow.
Isn't that wild though? Because it's
like he's been around forever.
Yeah, so it's like when I was thinking of this fight initially, I'm like, well, how does age play a factor? And I'm almost positive that Curiel is basically the same age. What do you think Curiel's age is?
Oh, I would have thought he'd be about 30 or so.
He's actually 2 years older than Alexis Rocha. Yeah, he's 30.
Okay, yeah.
Rocha goes in as the younger fighter, which I think is a mind melter for most. So it's an interesting fight, and I think that it really sets the groundwork for someone to have a big year. I did want to talk about the undercard. I'm not sure how familiar you are with it. We're going to go pretty quick speed round, because I've been talking into this like you have for a very long time, and my mind is starting to go crazy. Gucci Manny Flores versus Jorge Chavez was a fight that I absolutely loved in July. Kind of spoke to the lack of really great fights in 2025. I think that we didn't have a consistency in boxing. There were like a lot of ebbs and like slow periods, but that was a hidden gem on a Golden Boy Fight Night card. I'm not sure if you ever saw it, but it was a really, really delightful main event fight where Chavez boxed and spurts and Flores came on at the end. It's a really compelling 122-pound bout that I'm really excited to see how it plays out in the rematch, because I felt like Chavez did get the advantage. Flores has lost a fight before, but he has a huge following in Indio, California. It feels like a fight that graduates the winner off of regional fight cards and makes him a capital G guy. What are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, well, you would know more about the sort of local implications than I would. I have seen this fight. I didn't see it live. I think this was originally on one of the Thursday night Golden Boy shows.
So it's I call it the fight night. They're in Thursday, Friday. It's like an off night in Palm Springs area.
Yeah. So if it was a Thursday, that's Friday lunchtime in Australia. So I was at work. So I caught up on it probably a couple of weeks later, a month later or something like that. And yeah, much like you, I thought Chavez did enough to win. Yeah, similar to Rocha Curiel, I thought it was a good fight. It didn't absolutely blow my mind in terms of sustained crazy action or anything like that. But I like watching technicians too. I like watching all different types of fights for all different types of reasons. So yeah, I mean, I don't really have a massive familiarity with both guys outside of a fight or two from each of them, to be totally honest. So I'm probably gigantically underqualified to give like some sort of breakdown. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I thought Chavez did enough the first time. Can he do it again? Excited to see. Two good rematches on the card. So
I think
I'm looking forward to it.
The goal is to have two interesting Australian you're Australian. Two interesting Golden Boy rematches, and the hope is one turns into an exciting fight. I think the goal is two rematches, two bouts, a press conference, some animosity. One of the fights leads to something kind of memorable. That kind of gets to be the feeling, is when you make two rematches, you're hoping that, one of the grudge matches kind of is a high stakes one.
Yeah. No, that'd be a good way to build a card. And yeah, I would have watched it live if it was on a Saturday night in America, which is Sunday in Australia. I just didn't get to catch it. So I don't know. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts too, Luke. I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I always find I'm way less motivated to watch a fight if it's not live. And I don't really have it.
It happens for me all the time. I do go back, but I definitely feel I skip through the fights. Yeah, you lose a little bit of that childish joy of what's going to happen, even if you don't know the results. So it becomes more like film study for me.
Yeah.
I watch it more like what's happening, how's the fight changing. It definitely is not like I feel that way with most sporting events, to be honest. Like there's something, even if I don't know the result, I just don't feel as interested watching it.
Yeah, no, that's 100. I'm exactly the same. It's like, yeah, when it's live, there is that wow, anything can happen right now element. But obviously, once it's already happened, and as you pointed out, even if you don't know the result, it's predetermined. It's happened. So you're just watching for what's happened. So maybe that's why I sort of graded the Rocha-Curiel fight, because I watched that on delay as well. I didn't watch that live at the time. So yeah, that's maybe why I'm a little bit harsh on these two fights. So yeah, well, there's the lesson. I've got to catch these ones live, and I'll probably enjoy them a hell of a lot more, won't I? So.
Well, I remember I was watching Beetlejuice when I watched Rocha versus Curiel 1. That's another note. Undercard fighters you should be watching for the hardcores on the fan. Joel Iriarte is an awesome welterweight, real outstanding fighter. I think Caden Griffiths is someone who could really make a leap for Golden Boy this year. John Scrappy Ramirez, I'll kind of say this here. He did an interview with me and he called out Kenshiro Taraji. I'm not sure I've ever heard someone ever call out Kenshiro Taraji. Have you ever heard someone call out Kenshiro Taraji?
I have not.
So I thought that just alone was interesting, let alone that an American fighter called him out. But like the fact that someone's calling out Kenshiro Taraji, I think was an interesting and fascinating development. And Jordan Panthan coming back after a loss, training with Ronnie Shields. Those are kind of the notable bouts. It's a good week of boxing, but we're really getting into a 2-week stretch of like boxing Super Bowl, 2 mega weeks coming up. But yeah, so that is your time served on here. Why don't you promote your show? And if there's anything you'd like to say, tell us.
Oh, well, thanks, Lukey. Well, yeah, I sort of said that at the start. Yeah, I do the Unofficial Scorecard podcast on all the audio platforms and yeah, out on YouTube now as well. So search that if you feel like it. If you don't, all good. But yeah, no, thanks very much for having me, Lukey. It's a massive pleasure to get an invite from you, mate. It's a bit of an international qualifier to be able to have you reach out to me to talk to you on your show, mate. It means a lot. So I appreciate you sending the invite, mate. And yeah, as we did a couple of weeks ago, or maybe late last year, I had you on my show, and we've talked about doing another one again. And I'm just looking at the schedule. You mentioned the next 2 weeks. That Saturday, the 31st of January, US time, February the 1st for us in Australia, is absolutely loaded. So if you're down, mate, I'd definitely love to get you back on my show either before or after that.
We will get that scheduled for listeners of the program. Right. You can hear me over on his show, and it's always a pleasure. And guys, that is the show. So